Officer Derek Lawson looked at the woman in the handcuffs and saw only what he wanted to see. A helpless victim. Another statistic he could bully into a plea deal. He saw the color of her skin and the expensive car she was driving. And he decided to ruin her life before lunch. He planted the evidence. He wrote the false report. And he smiled for the booking photo. But Lawson made one fatal mistake. He didn't check who she really was. He didn't know that the woman sitting silently in that interrogation room wasn't just a civilian. She was Commander Kayla Bennett, a Tier 1 Navy SEAL operator with a clearance level higher than the entire state government. And she wasn't trapped in there with him. He was trapped in there with her. The black Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon looked out of place on the cracked asphalt of Route 17, just outside of Maple Grove, South Carolina. It was a vehicle that screamed money, status, and, in the eyes of Officer Derek Lawson, suspicion. Lawson sat in his cruiser, idling behind a billboard that had been peeling for years. He was well into his shift, bored and nursing a lukewarm coffee that tasted like burnt plastic. Maple Grove was the kind of town where the police force operated less like public servants and more like a private security firm for the wealthy residents on the north side, while treating everyone else as a nuisance. When the black G-Wagon rolled past doing exactly the speed limit, Lawson's eyes narrowed. He checked the plates. Rental out of state. Gotcha, he muttered, dropping the cruiser into gear. He didn't need a reason. In his time on the force, Lawson had learned that he was the reason. He flipped the lights. Inside the SUV, Kayla Bennett sighed. She checked her mirrors, seeing the aggressive nose of the Dodge Charger cruiser riding her bumper. She didn't panic. Panic was a reaction for people who hadn't spent years operating in the most hostile environments on Earth. Kayla eased the vehicle onto the gravel shoulder, put it in park, and rolled down all four windows, a habit from deployments to ensure clear lines of sight. She kept her hands at the 10 and 2 position on the wheel. She was dressed in comfortable civilian clothes, gray sweatpants, a vintage Howard University hoodie, and no makeup. She looked like a tired grad student, or perhaps a nurse coming off a double shift. She certainly didn't look like the woman who had been debriefing the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon regarding a classified extraction in the Horn of Africa. Lawson approached the passenger side first, peering in, hand resting heavily on his holster. He saw a lone black woman. He saw a gym bag in the back. He smirked. He circled around to the driver's side. "License and registration," Lawson demanded, skipping the courtesy of a greeting. "Good afternoon, officer," Kayla said, her voice calm, modulated, and devoid of fear. "May I ask the reason for the stop?" "License and registration," Lawson repeated, louder this time. He leaned down, his face inches from the open window. "And don't make me ask a third time or you're going to have a very bad day." Kayla slowly moved her right hand to the center console. "My license is in my wallet, in the console. I'm reaching for it now. Just get it," Lawson snapped. She handed over her South Carolina driver's license and the rental agreement. Lawson snatched them, barely glancing at the paperwork. He was staring at her, looking for the flinch, the tremble, the nervous stutter. He found none. Her eyes were dark, steady and unblinking. It irritated him. He was used to fear. "Get out of the car," Lawson said. "Officer, I've provided my identification. Unless I am under arrest, I'd prefer to stay in the vehicle." Lawson ripped the door open. "I said get out. I smell marijuana." Kayla didn't smoke. She didn't drink. Her body was a temple of efficiency, trained to endure extreme depths and high altitudes. The idea that she smelled like weed was laughable, but she knew the game. Arguing on the side of the road with a man holding a gun and a badge was a tactical error. She unbuckled her seatbelt and stepped out, rising to her full height. She was athletic and moved with a fluid grace that Lawson mistook for attitude. "Turn around, hands on the hood," Lawson barked. Kayla complied. The metal was cold against her palms. She spread her legs, anticipating the pat-down. "You got anything on you I should know about? Guns, knives, needles?" Lawson asked, patting her down aggressively, his hands lingering too long near her pockets. "No weapons," Kayla said. "We'll see about that." Lawson moved to the open driver's door. He leaned into the footwell. Kayla watched him via the reflection in the side mirror. She saw the sleight of hand. It was clumsy, amateurish. He reached into his own vest pocket, palmed a small clear plastic baggie, and then made a show of pulling it from under her floor mat. He straightened up, holding the baggie aloft like a trophy. It contained a few grams of white powder. "Well, well, well," Lawson laughed, a cruel, grating sound. "Looks like you're riding dirty, sweetheart. That's a felony amount of cocaine." Kayla didn't gasp. She didn't scream that it wasn't hers. She simply mentally cataloged the angle of the sun, the lack of body camera beep. He hadn't turned it on. And the serial number of his patrol car. "That is not mine," she stated flatly. "Save it for the judge." Lawson grabbed her wrist, twisting it painfully behind her back. He slapped the handcuffs on tight. Too tight. "You're under arrest for possession of a controlled substance." And he paused, grabbing her shoulder and spinning her around so roughly she stumbled. "And resisting arrest." "I haven't resisted," Kayla said, her voice dropping an octave, becoming colder. "You're resisting now," Lawson shouted for the benefit of the dashboard camera in his cruiser, which he knew would only capture audio from this distance. He shoved her against the side of the car. "Stop fighting me!" Kayla went rigid. She could have disarmed him in 3 moves. She could have shattered his wrist, swept his leg, and had him unconscious before his radio hit the ground. Every fiber of her muscle memory screamed to neutralize the threat. But she held back. She knew that hitting a cop, even a dirty one, was a losing battle in the court of public opinion. She needed him to dig his own grave. "I am complying," she said clearly. Lawson shoved her toward the cruiser. "Get in the back." He slammed the door, trapping her in the claustrophobic cage of the back seat. Kayla closed her eyes. She took a deep breath, regulating her heart rate. Lawson got into the front seat, picking up his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 4. 1 in custody. Possession with intent. Also, suspect became combative, adding assault on an officer to the charge sheet." Kayla opened her eyes. Assault on an officer. The stakes had just gone up. He wasn't just looking for an arrest. He was looking to destroy her. She stared at the back of his head, memorizing the shape of his haircut. "You have no idea what you've just done," she thought. The Maple Grove precinct smelled of stale coffee, floor wax, and misery. It was a small station, the kind where everyone knew everyone's business, and the hierarchy was set in stone. Officer Lawson paraded Kayla through the booking area like he had just captured a cartel kingpin. He gripped her upper arm tightly, his fingers digging into her bicep, pushing her faster than she needed to walk. "What do we got, Derek?" The desk sergeant, a heavy-set man named Thompson with a mustard stain on his uniform shirt, looked up from a crossword puzzle. "Traffic stop turned into a rodeo," Lawson bragged, tossing the baggie of white powder onto the high counter. "Found this under her seat. Then she tried to take a swing at me." Thompson whistled low. "Nasty. She don't look like much of a fighter." It's always the quiet ones, Lawson sneered. She's been giving me the silent treatment the whole ride over. Stone cold. They pushed Kayla toward the processing bench. Name? Thompson asked, hovering his fingers over the keyboard. Kayla Bennett, she said. Address? I am currently in transit. My permanent residence is classified, Kayla replied. Lawson let out a loud, barking laugh. Classified? Oh, that's rich. You hear that, Thompson? She's a spy or maybe an astronaut. Thompson rolled his eyes. Look, lady, don't play games. Give me an address or you sit in the holding cell until we find one. I would like to make my phone call, Kayla said. You get a call after booking, Lawson said, leaning in close to her face. Fingerprints? Mugshot? Then you can call your dealer and tell him you lost his product. The process was demeaning by design. They took her fingerprints. They made her stand against the height chart. The flash of the camera blinded her for a second, but in the photo, her face was a mask of terrifying neutrality. She didn't look like a criminal. She looked like a statue carved from granite. When they finally uncuffed her, one hand to shackle her to the bench in the holding area, Lawson tossed a phone book at her. There, call a bondsman. Though with the assault charge, I doubt you're walking out of here tonight. Kayla didn't look at the phone book. She picked up the receiver of the wall phone and dialed a number from memory. It was a number that didn't ring in Maple Grove. It didn't ring in a bail bondsman's office. It rang on a secure line in Arlington, operations. A male voice answered after one ring, crisp and professional. This is Sierra 709, authentication code. Victor Echo November, Kayla said softly into the receiver, turning her back to the room so Lawson couldn't hear the specifics. There was a pause on the line, then a shift in tone. Commander Bennett, we have you listed as on leave. Status, I have been detained by local law enforcement in Maple Grove, South Carolina. False charges of possession and assault on an officer. I need legal counsel, not a JAG from the base. I need private counsel who understands the sensitivity of my current clearance. I cannot have my background read into the public record during an arraignment. Understood, Commander. Are you in immediate danger? Kayla glanced over her shoulder. Lawson was at the coffee machine, laughing with another officer, miming a punch, likely reenacting the assault that never happened. Negative. Just a containment issue. I need someone here within the hour. I'm waking up David Hargrove. He's in D.C. He can make it there in time by chopper to the local airfield. Sit tight, Commander. Kayla hung up. She sat on the metal bench, her back straight, her hands folded in her lap. Lawson walked by a few minutes later, holding a clipboard. He stopped in front of the bars. Who'd you call? Mom and Dad. Hope they have deep pockets. I wrote up the report. I made sure to mention how you lunged for my gun. He was testing her. He wanted her to scream, to deny it, to give him more ammunition. Kayla finally looked at him. Really looked at him. She analyzed the micro-expressions of insecurity around his eyes. She saw a man who had peaked in high school and was now using a badge to fill the void in his ego. Officer Lawson, she said, her voice echoing slightly in the tiled room. You have filed a falsified police report. You have planted evidence. You have violated my civil rights. Lawson laughed, shaking his head. Your word against mine, sweetheart. And around here, my word is law. You're nobody. You're just another angry woman who got caught. I am giving you one chance. Kayla said, tear up the report, release me, apologize, and I will walk away. Lawson's face turned red. The audacity of this prisoner stunned him. He slammed his hand against the bars. You threaten me? You think you can threaten me? I'm going to make sure you do 5 years minimum. I'm going to make sure you lose that fancy car. "You're done." He stormed off, typing furiously into the computer system, finalizing the charges. He locked the narrative in. Kayla Bennett. Unemployed, belligerent, dangerous. He hit submit on the digital file, sealing his fate. 30 minutes later, the front doors of the station banged open. The precinct went quiet. Lawson looked up. Walking through the door wasn't a disheveled public defender or a bored bail bondsman. It was a man in a bespoke three-piece Navy suit that cost more than Lawson's annual salary. He carried a leather briefcase and walked with the urgency of a man who billed by the minute. Behind him trailed two younger associates, also in suits carrying heavy file boxes. This was attorney David Hargrove. He was known in Washington as the Shark of the PTOAC. He defended senators, CEOs, and when the Navy needed things handled quietly, he defended their elite assets. Hargrove walked straight to the desk sergeant, ignoring Lawson entirely. "I am here for my client, Commander Kayla Bennett," Hargrove announced, his voice booming. "And I want to see the arrest report immediately." Thompson blinked, stunned. "Commander?" She said she was unemployed. She said her residence was classified. Sergeant Hargrove corrected sharply. "She is a decorated naval commander." "Now, where is she?" Lawson stood up, his stomach doing a sudden, sickening flip. He walked over, trying to regain control. "I'm the arresting officer. She's in the back, and I don't care if she's the Queen of England. She assaulted a police officer." Hargrove turned his gaze on Lawson. It was like a laser sight locking onto a target. Hargrove didn't look impressed. He looked pitiful. "Officer Lawson, is it?" Hargrove asked, glancing at the nameplate. "I hope you have a very good union representative, son, because you have just arrested a woman who kills terrorists for a living, and you've accused her of being a drug addict." Hargrove leaned in, lowering his voice, so only Lawson could hear. "I'm going to tear this department apart, brick by brick, until I find the rock you crawled out from under." Lawson felt the first drop of cold sweat trickle down his spine. But he couldn't back down now. The report was filed. The lie was in the system. "She's guilty," Lawson insisted, though his voice wavered. "We'll see," Hargrove said, checking his watch. "Get her out here now." As Lawson walked back to the cell to retrieve Kayla, he saw her sitting exactly where he had left her. She hadn't moved. She looked up at him, and for the first time, Lawson realized the predator in the room wasn't him. "Lawyers here," he mumbled, unlocking the door. Kayla stood up, smoothing her hoodie. She walked past him without a word, but as she passed, the air seemed to drop 10 degrees. The war had begun. The interrogation room was a box of cinder blocks painted a shade of yellow that was likely intended to be calming, but instead felt like the color of old bruises. There was a two-way mirror on one wall, smeared with the ghosts of fingerprints from the observation side. Kayla sat at the metal table, her hands uncuffed now, resting flat on the cold surface. She hadn't touched the styrofoam cup of water they'd offered her. The door buzzed and swung open. The man who had entered the station earlier, the one who sucked the oxygen out of the room with his mere presence, stepped inside. He closed the door gently, cutting off the noise of the precinct. He didn't sit immediately. He walked to the corner of the room, checking for listening devices with a small handheld scanner he pulled from his pocket. It was a paranoid gesture to a civilian, but to Kayla it was standard operating procedure. "Clean," he murmured, slipping the device away. He turned to her, his face softening slightly. "Commander, I'm Ethan Cole. David sent me. He sends his regards and his apologies that he's currently tied up in a hearing with the Senate Intelligence Committee." "Ethan," Kayla acknowledged, her voice low. "I assume you've seen the charge sheet." "I have." Cole sat down, placing his leather briefcase on the table. He opened it, revealing a pristine legal pad and a gold fountain pen. Possession of a Schedule II narcotic with intent to distribute, assault on a police officer, resisting arrest, disorderly conduct. It's quite the laundry list for a Sunday drive. "He planted it," Kayla said. She didn't say it with anger. She said it like she was reporting the weather, under the floor mat. Standard clear baggie. He palmed it from his vest. Cole uncapped his pen. "And the assault?" "Non-existent. I maintained a position of compliance, hands on the hood. Then I was cuffed. He shoved me against the vehicle. There was no physical retaliation on my part, not even a flinch." Cole looked at her, studying her eyes. He knew her file. He knew that Kayla Bennett was a woman who could clear a room of hostiles in under 4 seconds using nothing but a ballpoint pen. The idea that she would flail incompetently at a small-town traffic cop was absurd, but the truth didn't matter yet. The narrative did. "The officer, Lawson," Cole said, scratching a note. "He's doubling down. I spoke to the watch commander. Lawson claims you swung an elbow at him during the pat-down and tried to grab his taser." Kayla's jaw tightened. A microscopic movement. "He is lying. I know he is." "But here is the complication." Cole leaned in. "I asked for the dash cam footage and the body cam footage immediately upon arrival." Kayla anticipated the answer before he gave it. "And dash cam was obstructed by the angle of your vehicle." "And the body cam?" Cole smiled, a cold, shark-like expression that didn't reach his eyes. "Officer Lawson claims he forgot to activate it until after the struggle. Then, miraculously, the file from the transport seems to be corrupted." "A technical glitch. Convenient," Kayla whispered. "Predictable," Cole corrected. "This is how they operate, Kayla. They control the evidence, so they control the truth. In a normal case, it's your word against a sworn officer of the law. And in Maple Grove, a jury will believe the man with the badge over the black woman in the expensive car every single time." "So what is the play?" Kayla asked, shifting into tactical mode. "We let him lie," Cole said softly. "We let him put it on the record. We let him stand in front of a judge and swear on a Bible that you attacked him. We let him dig the hole so deep that when the walls come down, he's buried alive." Cole reached into his briefcase and pulled out a sleek black tablet. He slid it across the table to her. "The Pentagon is aware. The Admiral wanted to pull rank immediately. Have the FBI raid this place, shut down the department, and extract you. I told him to wait." Kayla looked at the tablet. It showed a satellite feed of the police station. "Why wait?" "Because," Cole said, closing his briefcase with a snap, "if we pull you out now, Lawson gets a slap on the wrist, maybe a suspension. He goes on to do this to someone else. Someone who isn't a Navy SEAL. Someone who can't fight back. I want to destroy him, Kayla. I want to burn his career to the ground and salt the earth so nothing grows there again. Are you willing to spend the night in a cell to make that happen?" Kayla thought about the young kids she had seen in the booking area earlier. Scared, poor, powerless against men like Lawson. "I can handle a night," Kayla said. "I've slept in worse places." "Good." Cole stood up. "Tomorrow morning is the arraignment. I'm going to request a preliminary hearing immediately. I'm going to goad the prosecutor into putting Lawson on the stand to justify the high bail they're going to ask for. Once he speaks under oath, the trap is sprung." "One question," Kayla said as Cole reached for the door handle. Yes. Does he know about the Sentinel system? Cole paused. A genuine smile touched his lips this time. Nobody knows about the Sentinel system, Commander. That's why it's going to be so much fun. The Maple Grove County Courthouse was a relic of the 19th century. All red brick, white pillars, and injustice. The air inside smelled of floor wax and old paper. The courtroom for the morning arraignments was packed. It was a conveyor belt of misery. Drunk drivers, petty thieves, and domestic disputes were processed with bored efficiency by Judge Harlan Reeves, a man with bushy gray eyebrows and a face that looked like it had been carved out of dried apple. Kayla sat at the defense table. She had not been allowed to change. She was still in her gray sweatpants and hoodie, though she had managed to wash her face in the holding cell. Despite her attire, she sat with a posture that made the orange jumpsuit prisoners in the jury box look slouched and defeated. She was upright, alert, her hands clasped loosely. Ethan Cole sat beside her. He had changed suits. Today he wore charcoal gray, sharp enough to cut glass. He looked like a wolf sitting among sheepdogs. On the other side of the aisle was the prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney Melissa Grant. She was a woman who climbed the career ladder by securing convictions regardless of the cost. She was reviewing her file, looking confident. Behind her in the first row of the gallery sat Officer Derek Lawson. Lawson looked fresh. He was in his dress uniform, tie perfectly knotted, badge polished to a mirror shine. He looked the part of the hero. He was chatting with another officer, looking relaxed. He had no idea the crosshairs were already painted on his forehead. Docket number 4. 492, the bailiff called out. State of South Carolina versus Kayla Bennett. Kayla stood up. Cole stood with her. Charges are possession with intent to distribute, assault on a police officer, resisting arrest, Cole read, peering over his reading glasses. Miss Grant, how do we proceed? Your Honor, Grant stood, her voice projecting clearly. The state requests bail be set at $100,000. This defendant was caught with a significant amount of cocaine. More disturbingly, she violently attacked the arresting officer. She is a flight risk with no local ties and access to significant financial resources. Cole didn't interrupt. He waited. Mr. Cole, the judge asked. Your Honor, Cole began, his voice smooth like expensive scotch. My client enters a plea of not guilty to all charges. Regarding bail, we find the amount excessive for a first-time offender with a spotless record. However, given the gravity of the assault accusation, we would actually like to request an immediate preliminary hearing to determine probable cause. We want to clear this up today. Grant blinked. Usually defense attorneys wanted to delay, to negotiate. Requesting an immediate hearing was aggressive. The officer is present, Grant said, glancing back at Lawson. We are ready to proceed. Very well, Judge Reeves said, looking at his watch. Let's get on with it. Call your witness. Grant called Officer Derek Lawson to the stand. Lawson walked to the witness box with a swagger. He placed his hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The first nail in the coffin, Kayla thought, watching him. Officer Lawson, Grant began, walking back and forth in front of the bench. Walk us through the events of the traffic stop. Lawson cleared his throat. He pitched his voice to be deep, authoritative. I observed the defendant's vehicle speeding on Route 17. I initiated a traffic stop. Upon approaching the vehicle, I detected the distinct odor of burning marijuana. Did you find marijuana? Grant asked. No, ma'am. She likely disposed of it or consumed it before I approached. but the smell gave me probable cause to search. I asked the driver to step out. She was belligerent from the start, verbally abusive, using profanity. Kayla's face remained a mask of stone. She hadn't cursed once. "Continue," Grant said. "I found a bag of cocaine under the driver's floor mat. When I showed it to her and attempted to place her under arrest, she snapped." Lawson paused for dramatic effect, looking at the jury box, then at the judge. She spun around. "She's strong, stronger than she looks. She struck me in the chest, tried to grapple for my service weapon. I had to use significant force to subdue her for my own safety." "Did you fear for your life?" "I did, Your Honor," Lawson lied. She had a look in her eyes, wild, like she was on something. "I thought she was going to kill me." "Thank you, officer." Grant sat down, looking satisfied. Judge Reeves looked at Cole. "Your witness." Ethan Cole stood up slowly. He buttoned his jacket. He walked toward the witness stand, not looking at Lawson, but looking at the floor as if looking for a lost penny. When he reached the podium, he looked up. "Officer Lawson," Cole said pleasantly, "you've been on the force for some time. Is that correct?" "Yes, sir." "And you know the importance of accuracy in a police report?" "I do." "And you're aware of the penalties for perjury?" "I am," Lawson said, slightly annoyed. "Good." Cole picked up a piece of paper. "You stated my client was verbally abusive and using profanity. Can you recall specifically what she said?" Lawson hesitated. "Specifics were dangerous. She called me a pig. She said a few cop things like that, I see. And you stated she struck you in the chest. Closed fist or open hand?" "Closed fist." "Hard right here." Lawson tapped his sternum. "And she reached for your gun?" "Yes." "Her hand was on the holster, and you have no body camera footage of this life or death struggle?" Cole asked, his eyebrows raising. "Like I said in my report, the camera malfunctioned. Technology acts up sometimes." Lawson shrugged, a gesture of "what can you do?" and the dash cam blocked by her car. "So we only have your word for this violent assault? Your word against a woman with no prior criminal record?" "My word is good," Lawson snapped. "I'm a police officer." "Of course." Cole paused. He walked back to the defense table and picked up the black tablet he had shown Kayla earlier. He held it against his chest. "Officer Lawson, are you familiar with the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon Guard Edition?" Lawson frowned. "It's a car." "What about it?" "Well," Cole said, turning to face the gallery, his voice rising slightly, "it is not just a car. It is a vehicle often used by diplomats and high-value military targets. It comes equipped with ballistic glass, reinforced panels, and most importantly, the Sentinel surveillance system." The room went quiet. Lawson shifted in his seat. "Sentinel?" Lawson asked, his throat suddenly dry. "Yes, it's a 360-degree camera system designed to record potential assassination attempts. It records in 4K resolution. It has microphones sensitive enough to pick up a whisper from 50 feet away, and it uploads directly to a cloud server via satellite, independent of the car's engine being on." Cole turned back to Lawson. The predator was no longer hiding. The shark had surfaced. "My client, Commander Bennett, drives such a vehicle. And we have the footage, Officer Lawson. We have the footage from the stop, from 3 angles." Grant, the prosecutor, stood up, her face pale. "Objection. Defense hasn't entered this into evidence." "I am entering it now," Cole boomed, his voice echoing off the mahogany walls. But first, I wanted to give Officer Lawson every opportunity to tell the truth. Instead, he chose to lie to this court, to the state of South Carolina, and to God. Cole tapped the screen of the tablet and turned it toward the judge. "Officer Lawson," Cole said, his voice dropping to a terrifying whisper, "would you like to amend your testimony before I play this video? Or would you like to be arrested for perjury before you leave that chair?" Lawson looked at the tablet. He looked at Kayla. Kayla finally smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of the executioner. Lawson felt the floor drop out from under him. The trap wasn't just shut. It was welded tight. The silence in courtroom B was heavy, a physical weight pressing down on everyone present. It wasn't the silence of peace. It was the silence of a held breath before a car crash. Ethan Cole didn't wait for Lawson to answer his question about the amended testimony. He simply turned to Judge Reeves. "Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would like to connect my device to the courtroom's AV system. The state has presented a narrative. I would like to present the reality." Grant looked at Lawson. She saw the sheen of sweat breaking out on his forehead, the way his eyes darted around the room like a trapped animal. She knew in that instant that she had been sold a bill of goods. She stood up, her voice shaky. "Your Honor, the state has not had a chance to authenticate this evidence. This is a preliminary hearing, Miss Grant," Judge Reeves growled, his patience evaporating. "The rules of evidence are relaxed, and frankly, after hearing Officer Lawson's vivid description, I am very interested to see if the camera saw the same movie he did. Proceed, Mr. Cole." Cole plugged a cable into his tablet. The large monitors mounted on the walls flickered to life. The video feed was crisp, high definition. It showed a split-screen view. The left side was the driver's side exterior view. The right side was the interior cabin view. The timestamp in the corner matched the arrest report perfectly. The courtroom watched as the Mercedes pulled over. They heard the audio crystal clear. "Good afternoon, officer. May I ask the reason for the stop?" Kayla's voice filled the courtroom. It was calm, polite. Then Lawson's voice, harsh and grating. "License and registration. Don't make me ask a third time." There was no smell of marijuana mentioned. There was no belligerence. The video showed Kayla sitting perfectly still, hands on the wheel. Then came the moment of the search. On the screen, Kayla was outside the car. Hands on the hood, Lawson was leaning into the driver's side footwell. "Watch closely," Cole narrated, his voice cutting through the room. "Look at the officer's right hand." On the large screen, Lawson's hand dipped into his tactical vest. A small white object appeared in his palm. He leaned down, pretended to search under the mat, and then found the object he had just held. A collective gasp went through the gallery. The jury box whispered. Judge Reeves leaned forward, his eyes narrowing into slits. He looked from the screen to the real Lawson sitting in the witness box. Lawson was gripping the railing so hard, his knuckles were white. "That's a trick," Lawson stammered, his voice cracking. "That video is doctored. AI. It's AI." "We're not done," Cole said ruthlessly. "Now the assault." The video jumped forward. Lawson was twisting Kayla's arm. She was compliant. She didn't struggle. She didn't curse. "I am complying," the video Kayla said. Then Lawson shoved her. He slammed her against the car. He spun her around. Kayla's body language was defensive, trying to keep her balance, but she never threw a punch. She never reached for his gun. Her hands were open, palms out, a universal gesture of surrender. Lawson, on the other hand, was shouting at a ghost. "Stop fighting me! Stop resisting!" It was a performance. A performance for a dashcam he thought was recording audio, or for bystanders who might be watching. But seen from the cold, unblinking eye of the Sentinel system, it looked exactly like what it was. A man attacking a woman who wasn't fighting back. Cole paused the video on a frame where Lawson's face was twisted in rage, while Kayla looked calm, almost bored. "Officer Lawson," Cole said, turning back to the witness stand. "You testified under oath not 5 minutes ago that she struck you in the chest with a closed fist. Can you point to that moment on the screen?" Lawson opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He looked at Grant for help. The prosecutor was staring at her desk, refusing to meet his eyes. She was already mentally writing her resignation letter. "You testified she reached for your gun." Cole continued, stepping closer. Yet her hands never left her sides until you forced them behind her back. "Were you lying then, or are you lying now?" Things happened fast," Lawson wheezed. "In the heat of the moment. In the heat of the moment, you planted cocaine on an innocent woman," Cole roared. The sudden volume made Lawson flinch. "You fabricated a felony. You kidnapped a citizen under the color of authority." Cole turned to the judge. "Your Honor, this wasn't an arrest. It was a frame-up, pure and simple." Judge Reeves took off his glasses. He set them down on the bench with a deliberate clack. "Miss Grant," the judge said, his voice terrifyingly quiet, "do you have any redirect for this witness? Or perhaps you'd like to join him in the cell he's heading toward?" Grant stood up fast. "Your Honor, the state moves to dismiss all charges against Miss Bennett immediately with prejudice, and the state would like to reserve the right to pursue charges against the witness." Motion granted. Reeves slammed his gavel. Charges dismissed. "But we aren't finished." He turned his gaze on Lawson. "Officer Lawson, you are in my courtroom. You swore an oath to me. You lied to my face. Bailiff, take Officer Lawson into custody. The charge is perjury and contempt of court, and I suggest the district attorney look into filing a false police report and evidence tampering before lunch." Two bailiffs, men Lawson had joked with in the break room for years, moved toward him. They didn't look friendly. One of them pulled Lawson's arms behind his back. The handcuffs clicked, the same sound Kayla had heard some time ago. "This is a mistake," Lawson shouted as they hauled him up. "You can't do this. I'm a cop. She's a criminal. Sit down and shut up," the bailiff barked, shoving Lawson into the prisoner's bench, the same bench Kayla had occupied moments ago. Cole began to pack up his tablet, but he wasn't done. The drama demanded a final act. The courtroom was buzzing with chaotic energy. Reporters in the back row were frantically typing on their phones. The story of a dirty cop caught in 4K was already gold, but they didn't know the diamond was yet to be revealed. Judge Reeves looked down at Kayla, who was still standing at the defense table. "Miss Bennett," the judge said, his tone apologetic, "I want to offer the court's sincerest apologies. What happened to you was a travesty. You are free to go." "Thank you, Your Honor," Kayla said. It was the first time she had spoken since the hearing began. Her voice was steady, commanding. Ethan Cole raised a hand. "Your Honor, if I may, there is one final matter of housekeeping regarding the record." "What is it, Mr. Cole?" "The arrest report lists my client as unemployed and transient. For the sake of the expungement order, we need the record to reflect her true status. We can't have a background check flagging this incident due to clerical errors." "Very well," the judge sighed. "What is your occupation, Miss Bennett?" Kayla looked at Cole. He nodded. She turned to face the courtroom. She looked at the reporters. She looked at the terrified prosecutor. Finally, she looked at Derek Lawson, who was slumped in the prisoner's box, watching her with a mix of hatred and confusion. "I am a commander in the United States Navy," Kayla stated clearly. "I serve with the Naval Special Warfare Development Group." The room went quiet again. Even the judge blinked. "Development Group?" Judge Reeves asked. "You mean DevGru? SEAL Team 6? "Yes, Your Honor. I am the commander of Tactical Support Squadron Red. My clearance level is Top Secret SCI, with a Yankee White designator." A pin drop would have sounded like a gunshot. Lawson's face drained of all color. He looked like he was gonna be sick. He hadn't just framed a civilian. He hadn't just framed a rich woman. He had framed a Tier 1 operator. He had framed a woman whom the United States government had spent millions of dollars training to be a lethal weapon. Cole chimed in, twisting the knife. Commander Bennett was returning from a debriefing at the Pentagon regarding national security operations. When Officer Lawson detained her, he didn't just violate her civil rights. He technically interfered with a military asset during a time of operational readiness. I have the Judge Advocate General on the line, Your Honor. They are displeased. Judge Reeves looked at Lawson. The look wasn't just anger anymore. It was pity. Pity for a man who was so stupid he had tried to mug a shark in the middle of the ocean. "Officer Lawson," Reeves said, shaking his head, "you didn't just step in it. You drowned in it." The judge turned back to Kayla. "Commander Bennett, thank you for your service and thank you for your incredible restraint. God knows if I were in your shoes and had your training, Officer Lawson might not be walking out of here at all. Discipline is the difference between a soldier and a bully, Your Honor," Kayla said, her eyes locking onto Lawson's. The bailiffs hauled Lawson up to take him to the holding cells, the cells in the basement where the air was damp and the future was dark. As they walked him past the defense table, Lawson slowed down. He looked at Kayla. The arrogance was gone. The swagger was gone. He looked small. "I didn't know," Lawson whispered. "I didn't know who you were." Kayla didn't turn her body. She just turned her head slightly. "That's the problem, Derek," she said softly, using his first name for the first time. "You shouldn't have to know who I am to treat me like a human being. You thought I was nobody, and that was enough for you to destroy me." She leaned in closer so only he could hear. "You wanted a war. You got one. Enjoy prison. I hear the schedule is very regimented. You'll get used to it." The bailiffs shoved him forward. "Move it, Lawson." Kayla watched him go. She didn't feel joy. She didn't feel triumph. She felt a cold, hard satisfaction. The mission was accomplished. The threat was neutralized. Cole snapped his briefcase shut. "Well, Commander, that went well. The car is waiting out back. I suggest we leave before the press realizes that a Navy SEAL just took down the local police department." Kayla nodded. She pulled her hood up, transforming back from the commander into the civilian. "One more thing, Ethan," she said as they walked down the center aisle, the heavy wooden doors swinging open for them. Yes, the lawsuit, the civil rights suit already drafted. Cole smiled. "We're suing the city, the police department, and Lawson personally. We're going to bankrupt this town." "Good," Kayla said. "Make sure the proceeds go to the public defender's office. They need better resources to help the people who don't have a Sentinel system in their car." They stepped out into the bright sunlight of the South Carolina afternoon. The air tasted sweet. It tasted like freedom. The fallout from the arrest of Commander Kayla Bennett didn't just ripple through Maple Grove. It was a tidal wave that washed the corruption away, leaving the bedrock exposed. In the time that followed, the corruption was stripped bare. It started with Officer Derek Lawson. Abandoned by his union and facing federal scrutiny, he cut a deal. He pleaded guilty to perjury, filing a false report, and civil rights violations. The judge, not Reeves this time, but a federal magistrate who had no patience for dirty badges, sentenced him to 6 years in a low-security federal penitentiary. There was no hero's send-off. There was no support the blue rally. When Lawson was transferred from the county jail to the federal transport bus, he walked alone. He wore a beige jumpsuit that fit poorly, his wrists shackled to his waist. As he shuffled towards the bus, he looked up at the perimeter fence. There were no cameras this time, no audience, just the gray sky and the crushing realization that he had traded his life for a baggie of baking soda and an ego trip. But Lawson was just the first domino. Ethan Cole, true to his word, had launched a scorched earth litigation strategy. During discovery for the civil suit, his team unearthed a pattern. Lawson hadn't acted alone. He had been enabled. They found emails from the police chief encouraging officers to boost revenue through asset forfeiture, essentially telling them to seize expensive cars on flimsy pretexts. The chief of police resigned in disgrace soon after the lawsuit was filed. The town council, facing bankruptcy from the impending judgment, fired 3 other officers who had similar complaints on their records. The Department of Justice opened a consent decree investigation, effectively placing the entire Maple Grove police force under federal supervision. The town of Maple Grove was forced to settle the civil rights lawsuit for $4.5 million to avoid a trial that would have humiliated them further. Commander Kayla Bennett stood in the lobby of the Maple Grove Public Defender's office. It was a cramped space with mismatched furniture and phones that wouldn't stop ringing. She was in uniform this time, her service khakis, the gold trident of the SEALs gleaming above her left pocket, her commander's insignia shining on her collar. She looked every inch the warrior diplomat. The head public defender, a weary woman named Emily Carter, who had spent years fighting a losing battle against the system, looked at the check Kayla had placed on her desk. "Commander," Emily said, her voice trembling, This is the entire settlement, minus legal fees for Mr. Hargrove's firm," Kayla corrected gently. "But yes, it's for the office. Hire more investigators. Upgrade your case management system. Make sure the next time a Lawson tries to plant evidence on a kid who can't afford a lawyer, you have the resources to fight back." Emily looked up, tears in her eyes. "You know, most people take the money and buy a beach house. They want to forget this place ever existed." "I don't need a beach house," Kayla said, putting her cover hat back on. "I have a bunk on a submarine. It's much safer." She walked out of the office, the door chiming behind her. Outside, the black Mercedes G-Wagon was waiting. Ethan Cole was leaning against the fender, checking his phone. "You're a saint, you know that?" Cole said, opening the door for her. "We could have bought a small island with that money." "Is Lawson in prison?" Kayla asked. "Checked in yesterday. Then I got what I wanted," Kayla said, climbing into the driver's seat. She started the engine. The dashboard lit up. The Sentinel system beeped once, signaling it was active and recording. As they drove out of Maple Grove, passing the very spot on Route 17 where the blue lights had flashed, Kayla didn't look in the rearview mirror. She didn't feel fear anymore when she saw a police cruiser. She felt a profound sense of duty. She had fought enemies in deserts and jungles, men with RPGs and ideologies of hate. But her most important battle hadn't been fought with a rifle. It had been fought with silence, patience, and the unyielding truth. She turned onto the highway, merging into traffic, heading back toward the naval base. The sun broke through the clouds, illuminating the road ahead. "Ethan," she said, "next time let's just pay the speeding ticket." Cole laughed. "There won't be a next time, Commander. They know your license plate number in every precinct from here to D.C. You're untouchable." Kayla smiled. "No one is untouchable." "That's the point." She accelerated, the G-Wagon roaring to life, disappearing into the flow of traffic. A silent guardian in a world that often forgot to look closely at who it was hurting. And that is the story of how Officer Derek Lawson picked a fight with the wrong woman and lost everything. It's a satisfying tale of justice, but it's also a terrifying reminder. If Kayla Bennett hadn't had the money for a high-tech camera system and the connections to a top-tier lawyer, she would likely be sitting in a prison cell right now, her career and reputation destroyed. Lawson didn't lose because he was wrong. He lost because he got caught by someone more powerful than him. It forces us to ask the uncomfortable question: how many people are currently sitting in jail because they didn't have a sentinel system? How many lives have been ruined by a lie that no camera was there to catch? Kayla Bennett used her power to break the system in Maple Grove, but the system itself remains. It serves as a lesson to always stay vigilant. Know your rights and never, ever judge a person by the car they drive or the clothes they wear. You never know when you might be staring down a Navy SEAL. Wow, what a ride. If you felt a chill when that courtroom video played, hit that like button right now. It really helps the channel. What would you have done in Kayla's shoes? Would you have stayed calm, or would you have fought back physically? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you want more stories like this, where the underdog bites back and justice is served ice cold, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there. In the end, this story leaves us with a powerful, heart-stirring lesson that hits deep. Never judge a person by what you see on the surface. A quiet woman in a hoodie driving a nice car wasn't just another statistic to Officer Lawson. He saw her skin, her vehicle, and his own prejudice, and decided her life was worthless. What he never imagined was that behind that calm exterior stood a warrior who had risked everything for her country, a woman whose strength, discipline, and quiet dignity far surpassed his badge and ego. The real tragedy isn't just that one corrupt cop got caught. It's that so many innocent people without a sentinel system, without powerful lawyers, or without a voice still suffer the same injustice every single day. This story reminds us that true character isn't loud or flashy. It's often silent, patient, and unbreakable. It teaches us to treat every human being with basic respect and kindness, because you never truly know who is standing in front of you. The next nobody you try to break might be carrying a lifetime of courage, sacrifice, and quiet power you could never understand. So let this be our reminder. Slow down, look deeper, and choose humanity over assumptions. Because one day the tables might turn, and the person you dismissed could be the one who changes everything. What about you? If you were in Kayla's shoes, would you have stayed as calm and strategic as she did, or would the anger have taken over? Have you ever been judged unfairly because of how you looked or what you drove? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one and love hearing your honest stories. And if this powerful message touched you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss these emotional, eye-opening stories of justice, resilience, and real-life lessons. Thank you for watching. Stay kind, stay vigilant, and I'll see you in the next one.